Let's get ready to rumble!
I was born in Manhattan, New York. Lived in foster care, 8 different foster homes. Then got adopted at the age of 7. From 7, I was moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I was adopted. And I lived there until I was about 15. She passed when I was 15. And then I went to 4 high schools and put myself through my last year of high school, 4 years of college and grad school. And then somehow moved out to California and got into the entertainment field.
Yeah, come on, play it! I need some power. That's the shit there, come on! I be at the club killing them bitches like... You know when you get older, you can't bend your knees. When you get older, you be like...
My experience in entertainment has always been good because I made a promise to myself. And the promise I made to myself was I was never going to blame the entertainment for my circumstances, because Hollywood didn't come to Ohio State where I was going to grad school and knock on the door and go, hey, do you want to move to LA and struggle for 20 years? Pretty much it was something I picked. So the entertainment per se has been good to me. The challenges, I mean, obviously we all have had challenges to the point where, you know, sometimes you feel like quitting, or I felt like quitting, but at the end of the day, I kept saying, you know, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well go for it. So, well, the Executioners, as you see in the documentary, are a bunch of young kids, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that are now 50, 51, 57-year-old men that can look back and say, hey, even though I didn't make the right decisions in all the cases, they landed on their feet. And I think that's what's really, really important, that the bulk of them came out of that situation on the positive side. We do have one guy in jail, 39 years, falsely accused for murder. Carmen Woods, we're trying to get him out. We have one guy on death row, Emmanuel Ali. He's on death row. Stonewall Jackson, great heavyweight, died in 1990. But then we got Mike Wells, who became a pastor. We got Lionel Johnson, who was part of one of the most notorious drug gangs in the city, got his life together and turned his life around. Reggie Mean Machine Woods became, got his master's degree from the University of Maryland. Then we have Bob Nix. His story is unique because Bob Nix was out there and caught out there, lost 2 of his sons to the system for a while, was determined not to get his 3rd son lost, and what happens? His 3rd son winds up winning a Super Bowl ring with the New York Giants, and they beat Tom Brady. So all of these guys came up with different stories. Danny Green went to college, got a master's degree, out here making movies, grinding in Hollywood. So the Executioners, it's really just not, it's a human interest story. And when you watch it, if you can't see that, if you don't see a human interest story in this movie, I don't know what you see. Because it's not a bunch of, I think it's one of the best ever done. And I'm not saying it because I did it, but like I said, Mike Tyson, we knew his story. But here's something about some guys that you didn't know that all were ranked 2nd, 3rd, number 1 in the country. So, the Executioners, they've all turned out to become great men, great contributors to the country. Well, I was boxing. I started boxing at the age of 14, 15 years old. And then I boxed off and on. And then when my mom passed, I had stopped fighting for a while. I got back into boxing in 1987. I wound up winning the Golden Gloves in 1989, 1990, back to back. So anyway, I was going to turn pro, didn't turn pro, but I always worked out. I always stayed involved with boxing. So I went back to Philadelphia in 2017 to do a comedy show. And the guy, one of the fighters from my team had came to the show. So I was talking to him and I was asking him about my old trainers. And I asked him about Marvin Tucci Gordon. And he had, told me that Tucci had died in 96. But he said, and I thought my other trainer, who was my trainer, Frank Taylor, I said, well, is Frank still alive? He said, oh yeah, Frank is doing well. So I wind up getting his phone number. This is in Philadelphia, 2017. Now, I hadn't talked to Frank in over 30 years, probably longer. So I wind up coming back to LA, and I was laying in bed, and I said, man, let me call Frank, see how he's doing. So I called him. I said, hey, now I ain't talked to the man in over 30 years. I go, hey, I said, is Frank Taylor there? And he goes, yes, this is Frank Taylor. I said, hey, Frank, how you doing? This is Dan and Green. I used to box for you when I was a kid. And he goes, Dan and Green. He goes, Dan and Green, Felton Street, Southpaw, good fighter. Yeah, I remember you. And I can't lie to you guys, I almost broke out in tears because I ain't talked to this man in 30-something years. He remembered me, he remembered where I lived and everything. You can remember a fighter, but when you remember where he lived, it's like he was invested. So we talked for about 30, 40 minutes, man, just about everything going on in life. And then I hung up. That was in October of 2017. So early part of November, I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking like, somebody's got to tell this story. I said, because when he dies, this whole story, this whole history of this boxing team and this gym is going to go to the grave with him. So I called him up and I said, hey, Frank. He said, hey, Danny. And they call me Danny back east. He go, hey, Danny. And I go, hey, I want to do the story about the Executioners. And he said, I always felt like there was a story there, but I didn't know how to get it out. So I said, well, look, man, let me tell this story. He said, Danny, you can do it. So he gave me the blessing to do the story. I think this film has a lot of messages for everybody because it's really about regrets, decision making. It's about life. It's a human interest story. Yeah, you're going to see boxing, but you're going to see the story behind the fighters. My boxing documentary is the first boxing documentary ever done about a boxing team. Usually you see stories about Ali, 5 or 6 things you know about Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, because these are individuals and we studied them and we shared their life because they were successful. But here's a story about 8, 9, 10, 12 guys that everybody had their own path. They all had the same opportunity to learn from these 2 men, but they all took different directions. So I think this story is really about redemption, regrets, love, friendship, mentorship. It's a broad spectrum, but it's as broad as it is. It's really a story that all comes down to 2 people showing love at the end of the day. Hey, I remember Marvin Tucci Gordon used to tell all of us in the gym. He used to tell us this. He said, if you're not serving your community, you're harming it. All this stuff that's happening in this documentary is still happening today. And I think that is so important for us now to get an understanding and have someone put that word out there. Look, there is other ways to go about it. There's other ways to make it. Well, what I hope to accomplish, one, is to let the industry, Hollywood, people in the industry, investors know that I can make a movie, I can make a good product so that people will invest in me so that I can do more films. Also hope to gain awareness for people to understand how important mentorship, boxing, education, and also physical education, physical fitness is to people in life. So those are some of the things that I hope to accomplish by releasing this movie. It taught me that you got to give back. So I feel like being a person that's giving back to the community, giving back, like I said, I feed homeless people. Giving back to kids, I train kids in boxing. It keeps me grounded, but it also lets me know that you're helping another generation, or you're helping the generation that's there. I don't believe in giving up on adults. I think everybody counts. I don't care if you get 40 all sitting. I'm not throwing people away because I know how I would have felt. Like I said, I know how, being a foster kid and being on my own for so long, I know what it feels like to be an outsider. If we give up on the adults, what are we doing? So I feel like we got to give back to everybody, not just kids, but the adults too, and to help everybody out. Well, if you want to see my film right now is released on Tubi TV, which is free television, and currently about to be released, or it has been released on Amazon Prime. So we got, but right now it's 2 social medias, Facebook and Instagram. Dan and Green 66 and Gannon Green.